now to commit some nefarious things because I, the Joker, like doing evil things. No, Joker! We're in a library. You can't do that. Speaking of, how many literary devices do you know, Joker? I assume it's not many. But even a supervillain needs to know their ABCs. And so today, I'm going to take the time to teach you a few important literary devices that you can use in your everyday life. Well, thank you, Batman. That's very generous of you. Sure, let's take the time to learn some English. Glad you agree, Joker. Now, without further ado, here are 10 literary devices. The first word is onomatopoeia. It's a figure of speech in which words are used to imitate sounds. Examples of that are things like poof, pow, buzz, honk, pow. They resemble, imitate, or suggest the sound they describe. Next up, we have metaphors, a literary device in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. An example of this would be saying the metaphor, you're an open book to someone. It means like they're readable and transparent, but they're not literally an open book. Here you'll see a visual metaphor. Can you guess what it is? Someone living with their heads in the clouds. The next word is paradox, a self-contradictory statement highlighting two conflicting ideas. An example of this is all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Something can't be more equal than something else. And so it's contradictory in the fact that, like, there's two parts of that sentence, but both parts of that sentence can't be true, even though they both purport to be. And so it's a paradox. Next up, we have a simile. It's a figure of speech in which two things, different in kind or quality, are compared by the use of the word like or as. You could say, I am as slow as a sloth. You're not saying you're literally a sloth, but that you are similar to one through use of the word as. I'm as cool as a cucumber. We're like two peas in a pod. Moving on, we have oxymorons, a figure of speech in which apparently contradictory terms appear in conjunction. An example of that is something like old news, deafening silence, an exact estimate. Like those words on their own have opposing meanings, but when put together in conjunction have a new meaning. Um, like deafening and silence, exact, an estimate. Exact is something that's like clear and crystal, like exact. An estimate is something that's more kind of guessed and not as concrete. Uh, an example there I have is jumbo shrimp. That's a pretty good oxymoron. Following oxymoron, we have repetition. The repeating of the same word or phrase over and over again. Charles Dickens employs repetition in the opening of his novel A Tale of Two Cities, writing, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness." Here he repeats the phrase "it was" over and over. He actually continues. And that example there keeps going past that. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It's a long word. And so on and so forth. And so it creates almost like a harmony or recognition through use of the same phrases multiple times. Next, on to synecdoche. That's a tough word to pronounce. It's a literary device in which a part of something is substituted for the whole, or less commonly, the whole substituted for a part. An example, this is the phrase, Jack got some new wheels. This isn't reference to Jack's just getting new wheels, but it's actually supposed to mean Jack got a new car. It's a part of the car, the wheels, substituting for the whole, the car. Or when someone says, let's hit the waves. They talk about the ocean. It's substituting like a part of the ocean, the waves, with a whole. Now we have an iambic pentameter. So it's a type of metric line. It describes the rhythm or the meter established by the words in each line. Rhythm is measured in small groups of syllable called feet. Iambic means the type of foot used is an iamb, which is an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable in a word. Blank verse uses iambic pentameter. Penta in this case means 5. And so it's 5 of those meters, or 5 words in that line. Each of those words being iambic. That means it's a unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. In this example here, you can see 5 words in each line, starting with an unstressed followed by a stressed syllable. Second to last, we have imagery, a literary device used in poetry, novels, or other writing that uses vivid description that appeals to one's senses to create a mental image or impression. Take the sentence, he felt like the flowers were saying hello. What does this create in your mind? For me, it creates the idea like these flowers are friendly, they're healthy, they're alive, they're radiant. In this example here, we have voices screeching, fingers pointing, a cruel world made for strangers, blame is crushing, guilt is haunting. Like they're words that are descriptive and like they make an image in our minds, like screeching voices. You'd imagine someone like screaming at the top of their lungs or something akin to nails on chalkboard, but in voice. And finally, the best for last, puns. It's a literary device the humorous effect is produced by using a word that suggests 2 or more meanings, or words involving similar sounds, words that sound alike. In layman's terms, it's a play on words. I'll tell you my favorite pun. 2 men walk into a bar, the third one ducks. It's the word bar in that sentence. The word bar here has 2 meanings. It can either mean like a bar, like an establishment where they sell alcohol, or an actual physical bar of something. And so usually when they say 2 men walk into a bar, they're walking into an establishment. But here, with the context of third one ducks, it's actually a pun saying like it's a bar they're actually walking into. The example here is the duck said to the bartender, "Put it on my bill." Because that word in that sentence is 2 meanings. It can either be the bill of the duck or the bill of like the check that they get from the restaurant. That's all, folks. 10 literary devices. Important ones, frankly. I hope you learned something, because I certainly did. And we'll see you next time.